Sister Sledge are, or maybe were, an American female vocal group from Philadelphia. They were formed in 1965 by sisters Debbie Sledge, Joni Sledge, Kim Sledge, and Kathy Sledge, and they were managed by their mother, Flores Sledge. They existed possibly until 2020, or possibly are still existing, depending on who you believe. But they've been far from stable. They've had several of the Sledges have been involved and listed as touring members: Carol Sledge, Camille Sledge, Amber Sledge, Julie Sledge, and then the other two people listed as touring members are Shell Davis and Tanya Tiet, who probably felt quite isolated by not being Sledges. They didn't always get on. So I know Philadelphia is known as the city of brotherly love. It's a shame that in Sister Sledge there wasn't more sisterly love. There have been several legal arguments over the years over the use of the name by members, often by one person going off, getting a band and going and billing them as Sister Sledge or somebody from Sister Sledge, and the arguments that ensued. The name was trademarked but kept lapsing in trademark. Despite all these things, they managed 10 studio albums. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a mini album review of the album We Are Family by Sister Sledge, which was released in 1979. It was their third studio album, and it's my second time reviewing it because before I started doing video reviews, I was reviewing to a smaller but similar list on a blog, and they came up in that. Right. So, but I'm not just going to give you a repeat. This is, a brand new review. So I would describe this as being disco and smooth soul, and that kind of most of the tracks either fit into one or the other. So there are three of these tracks that I know of old that have been hits. We Are Family was a huge hit in the UK. I would hazard a guess that almost everybody in the country knows that track. The Greatest Dancer, I understand, was a bigger hit in the US than We Are Family, and certainly a bigger hit in the US than it was in the UK, but was also a hit. And also Lost in Music, which is a song that I like. I would say out of the other tracks, Thinking of You is a nice disco track, so I particularly want to mention that. That was released as a single, but I don't know it. Maybe it wasn't released in the UK, I don't know. And then there are a few slower soul songs, and there's some kind of in the middle. Somebody Loves Me is maybe the most soulful and slow. And actually, it reminded me of stuff done by the Oslo Gospel Choir. It had a similar kind of soul feel to it in the slow stuff. The Sledges, these sisters, share out the lead vocals. I can't distinguish between them. I can read up on who's done what, but they're quite similar voices, I would say. They're nice and clear and very kind of soul disco voices. They're, technically very strong and a reasonable amount of expression in them. But I want to talk about the musical backing because, quite importantly, this is so Nile Rodgers, who's quite well known, of Chic, and Bernard Edwards, who's a little bit less known, of Chic, on bass, Nile Rodgers on guitar. Those two also wrote all the songs and produced the album. There are other members of Chic here. I don't know if it's the entirety of Chic. There's some session musicians and there's some guests. Basically, I think you could say that this is actually a Chic album with Sister Sledge doing the vocals. And that I'm not an absolute fanatic fan of Chic. I do like them and admire them, but my knowledge isn't huge. But if you said this was a Chic album and Sister Sledge is singing the vocals, I'd go, yeah, all right, that makes sense. It sounds like a reasonable thing. There's lots of strings and occasional brass. The strings, sometimes I react against strings. In this case, I like it. I think it works well. I think it's just handled well, but also I think stylistically appropriate. I thoroughly accept strings when it's on disco, and maybe on this kind of soul as well. We've got some other names to throw in here, we've got Luther Vandross does some backing vocals. And on the track Lost in Music, we've got backing vocals from the unlikely appearance of Simon Le Bon and Andy Taylor of Duran Duran. They're not, Duran Duran are not a band that I would associate with this kind of music, I would say. So the soul stuff is nice enough. There's some nice singing. It's got a reasonable feel. It could be more soulful. We are 1979 here, and we're coming into, so I generally feel a lot of 80s soul by then has become quite superficial. So this does feel a bit corporate, but it does still have a bit of soul feel to it. To my mind, people might disagree with me, and that's fine. Disco stuff, though, relishes in that kind of more produced corporate feel and is done really well. I mean, it's chic, and it has a good bounce to it. It's very kind of head boppy, toe tappy, floor filler stuff. I mean, We Are Family. If you put that on a disco of people of my age and younger here in the UK, it will be a floor filler. The hero to this album, to my mind, is Bernard Edwards, who's the bassist. He's a great bassist. I mean, I hear bass more than some people. I'm pretty convinced because I play bass. Some really good bass playing here. Nice funky stuff. It's strong in the mix, and there's some great playing. The fact that he's part of the production it probably explains why the bass is so comparatively loud in the mix compared to a lot of music. It's a feel-good album. As I said, We Are Family is one of the greatest disco songs ever, in my opinion. And I enjoyed it. It's not a deep album, but it's still kind of classy in its own way, I would say. So that's what I think. As always, I'd love to know what you think, so please let me know that by leaving me a comment. But that's it from me for now.
Here I am again, alone in my lonely room. How can I believe